Thank you all for coming tonight. And one of the things I'd like to point out before we begin is how excited I am to see so many students in the audience tonight. We hear a lot about how young people today are not interested in politics, and I think we have empirical evidence that that's simply not true. And that's all I'll say about that. First order of business is to introduce the candidates. The candidates will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and so I'll let them talk about themselves first. I'll just tell you their names. And the order, we did a random drawing before the debate began tonight. So number one, not in any particular order, but in terms of drawing number one for the first podium, which is immediately to my left, is Bobby Tullis. Number two is Gene Jeffress. Before I go any further with the presentation of the debate rules, which I'll do very, very quickly, enthusiasm is great, but we need to make sure that we maintain a civil and respectful tone. I hope I didn't need to say that, but just in case. Okay, so quickly, there's a designated timekeeper, Joel Hutchison. He will ring a bell. The candidate will have an opportunity to finish their thought, and then I will cut them off. If I have to, I'll put on my teacher hat. Each candidate gets an opening statement of 2 minutes. I will then ask candidate number one a question. The candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and then each of the other candidates will have 1 minute to make their response. And so basically each candidate's going to get 2 questions where they'll have 2 minutes, and then 6 questions where they'll have 1 minute to make a response. So 3 questions will come from the local media, and they'll introduce themselves. They'll go first, and then 5 questions will come from the students. I will read those questions, but I did not write them. They came from the students, and I don't think, I may have changed 1 word. Maybe. I'm not even sure if I did that. Original handwritten copy. Closing statements then by each of our candidates of 1 minute, and I think we'll just keep the same order that we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, unless there's any objections. We're going to try to keep this under an hour. We'll try. I don't want to cut anybody off. And after the event, students, general public, everyone else is invited to a reception in the hallway where there'll be cookies and juice. I think that's it for the rules. And like I said, Joel Hutchison is our timekeeper. And see what. Okay, let's go with the opening remarks, and let's start with Bobby Tullis.
Hi, my name is Bobby Tullis. I'm from Mineral Springs over in Howard County. I spent 14 years in the Arkansas General Assembly as a Democrat, but have come to change my mind. I am in this race because I am concerned about the deficit and the debt. Under President Bush, the deficit doubled. Under President Obama, we've added another $5 trillion in 4 years. If you want to look at who has failed you, it's the Democrats and the Republicans. Doesn't matter. They both have failed you. My grandson is 1 year old tomorrow. In my opinion, the Democrats have offered no real plan for the deficit. A lot of the House Republicans have rallied around the Ryan plan that does not balance for 28 years. I hate to say it, but in 28 years I won't be here. Mr. Cotton will be retirement age, and my grandson will be having to pay for everything. So I'm very invested in this race, and I realize the odds are against third parties, but if people will just stop and think that maybe it's time for an independent voice in Washington, and I would appreciate your consideration.
Next will be Gene Jeffress.
sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here this evening in Magnolia, Arkansas, SAU. And thank you all that are participating in getting everything going today and tonight for tonight's event. You know, I think the 4th District of Arkansas needs a congressman who knows the needs of the average 4th District citizen. Someone not only that was born and raised here, but one who has had a lifetime of experiences here as a resident of this district. A husband, a father, a worker, a taxpayer, a state legislator. I've raised a family. I know what it's like to feed and clothe a child. I know what it's like to sit up at night with a sick child and wipe their fevered brow. I know what it's like to see them see that they get an education. I've had one daughter graduate from SAU. I know what it's like to see that they get their religious faith well grounded and then successfully grow into a productive adult. We need that in these things in our Congress.
Next will be Josh Drake.
Good evening, I'm Josh Drake. I'm an attorney in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and where I've lived for the last 18 years. Primarily, I'm a worker. I work full-time. I have to run a business. I coach my son's Little League baseball team. You won't see me out on the campaign trail very much because I have a job. I'm applying for this job, but I don't have the luxury of being able to quit my current job and campaign. Mr. Jeffers has served this state quite honorably, and he's retired, and he has some time now to get out on the campaign trail, and he's doing a good job of it, and I salute you for your service to the state. But some of us are still working hard just to feed our kids, and I have 3 of those, and so and I'm sure you're working hard for your grandkids too. But I represent the Green Party of Arkansas. We're one of those third parties that you hear people talk about, but the Green Party, we have a little bit of a different focus than some of the other parties. We feel like we have to look at the natural state. We have to protect the natural state. We have to protect our natural resources, and we have to protect our environment. And that's one of the things that where I differ greatly from Mr. Cotton, for example, is that I and the Green Party believe that you have to look to future generations. You can't just look to the here and now. We have to look to our future. There's an old Iroquois principle that you make any decision today and consider how it would affect 7 generations ahead. And we all talk about we want what's best for our children. Some of you don't have children yet, but you'll be saying that too as soon as you have them. I want a good future for my kids. But part of having a good future for our kids is protecting our environment and leaving them in Arkansas, leaving them a natural state that's as good or as better than we found it. And that's where Mr. Cotton and I disagree the most. He sees Arkansas as the natural resource state. He believes in taking away all restrictions on drilling on federal lands. He's all about oil and coal. His jobs are coal miner and oil rig worker. And those are honorable jobs, but we could do better than that. We must protect our environment. Thank you.
And number 4 is Tom Cotton.
Hi, my name is Tom Cotton. I'm running to serve you in Congress. I've never run for office before, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up, like a lot of you did, on a small family farm. Ours was outside Dardanelle in Bell County. And I learned a lot of the values on that farm that you probably learned on yours. The value of hard work, of living within your means, of serving something other than yourself, having faith in a caring God, and practicing a simple patriotism that's not based on color or tradition. It's based on an idea. The idea that we're all created equal, that we have God-given rights, and that governments are created to protect those rights. It's those values that caused me to join the Army. On 9/11, I was in law school, but that day made me want to join the Army and serve in the front lines. So I left my law practice. I volunteered to be an infantry officer, became an Army Ranger. I fought in Iraq. I served in Afghanistan. Between those 2 tours, I worked at Arlington National Cemetery. where I laid my fellow comrades to rest. I want to go to Washington now to fight for you, to take those Arkansas values there that politicians in both parties have too often forgotten. That's why we have a debt of $16 trillion, as large as the whole economy. That's why we have a tax code that benefits the wealthy and the privileged, the well-connected, not the hard-working families and businesses of Arkansas. That's why Congress would pass a law like Obamacare, 2,700 pages of rules and regulations, mandates, taxes, and fines that have no place in a free society of free people. That's why the cost of living is going up every day, whether it's the price you pay for gas at the pump, your electricity bill, or the price you pay for food at the grocery store. If you send me to Congress, I'll fight for you. I'll take our Arkansas values there, and I'll work to get America and Arkansas working again.
Okay, we're going to start with our media questions first.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Aaron Morris with the Banner News here in Magnolia. Thank y'all for making the trip down here. The 4th Congressional District is the largest district in the state. We go from Delta all the way up to the mountains. And those are in the Ouachita Mountains. We've got 13 colleges and universities in our district. We sometimes feel like we're forgotten down here in South Arkansas. What are y'all's plans to, at one point, not forget everyone, but at the same time, just make sure that everyone has a voice?
Yeah, Mr. Tulsi, you have 2 minutes, and the other candidates will have 1 minute each as a rebuttal.
Well, I've lived in Arkansas all my life. I represented Howard and Sevier counties for 14 years in the State House of Representatives. I couldn't forget South Arkansas if I wanted to. I live in Mineral Springs now. But I want to tell you a dirty little secret about this campaign. If you elect Mr. Cotton or Mr. Jeffers, nothing's going to change. Mr. Cotton will be bound by the House Republican caucus, and they're going to retain command of the House of Representatives no matter what we do here. The Republicans are going to be, and he's going to be constrained by his caucus. And Mr. Jeffers, regardless of his intentions, is going to be constrained by the House Democratic caucus. They're going to be frozen out of everything because the Republicans are going to be in charge of everything. Mr. Cotton won't be able to do much of anything that's not approved by the Speaker and the House caucus. So I'm saying vote for me because I'll go up there with a sharp stick and poke everybody and get them to try to do right. And it's time for an independent voice in the 4th District, in my opinion, and I hope y'all will give me some consideration. Thank you.
Gene Jeffers, you have 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you. This last Wednesday I traveled 738 miles in the 4th District. It is a huge district from over on the far side of Ashley County to Texarkana, all across the Louisiana border of Oklahoma, Texas, skirts around Fort Smith and goes within about 15 miles of Missouri. I've been in all 33 of those counties numerous times, visiting with folks. I visited with a group in Marble, Arkansas. This last week, just had a wonderful visit down on the Buffalo River. It's a huge district. How do we get our arms around it? You have to get out and see folks. You can't just be seen on TV. People want to see you. They want to shake your hand. They want to know who their congressman is and who he will be. If Mr. Cotton's elected, all 4 of the congressmen in the state of Arkansas will live north of the Little Rock. Do you want representation? Thank you.
Mr. Drake, you have 1 minute.
This district is so large it goes all the way up to Newton County. And if you've ever been up to Lost Valley in Newton County, some of those mountains, it's some of the most beautiful area on earth. It goes all the way down Mississippi Delta, all the way over to Texarkana. And the only way to get elected in this district is, under our current situation, is to have millions of dollars. And if you don't have them independently, which most of us don't around here, you got to be given that money. Tom Cotton has ads in all the major. He's got television ads on all the television. Who's paying for those ads? It's not most of you. It's big business. It's the big corporations that are telling him what to do and what to say. And if you listen closely, that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's saying. And when it comes to South Arkansas, when he's elected, and we all up here know he's probably going to be elected, when he's elected, I want you to ask yourself, I want you to ask yourself, what's Tom Cotton doing for me in South Arkansas? And what's he doing for the people that are paying for his television commercials? And you'll see.
Tom Cotton, you have 1 minute.
Aaron, thanks for that question. I know that you said that people here in Magnolia sometimes feel like they're forgotten. I can tell you that the people in Crossett, in Hamburg, in Mena, in Clarksville, in Huntsville, all say the same thing to me. This district is very large, it's very rural, and we need a congressman who will serve every person in this district, every city, and every community, and every county. And that's what I'll do if I go to Washington, D.C. as your congressman. Gene, you made the point that there won't be a congressman from South Little Rock. I'm sure that the people of Clarksville and Ozark and Jasper and Huntsville will be disappointed to hear you saying that you want to serve only South Arkansas. I want to serve the entire district. And what can I do specifically for South Arkansas? I can make sure that Barack Obama's destructive policies related to oil and gas and coal and timber and forestry products are repealed so we can get South Arkansas working again.
Next question from the media.
Hi, gentlemen. My name is Michael Cornigan. I'm with the SAU Communications Center. In what ways will you help conserve natural resources since this is the Alpha State?
Dean Jeffers, you have 2 minutes.
You know, in the state that we call the natural state, what a beautiful state, what a blessed area we live in. Natural resources, gas, oil, lignite. Some people call it coal, but we here in South Arkansas know it's lignite. You know, those things are important to us. Those things are the makeup of an economy in our part of the world that's so very important, but we must take care of the environment. You know, I live out from Luann. Whenever people introduce me, they say I'm from Luann. I actually live 6 miles from Luann, and it's right at the Pace City oil field. You know, when my dad was growing up a few years ago, oil was a booming business in South Arkansas and the other areas, Union County and Columbia County and other areas of south central Arkansas. And oil ran through the creek bottoms. It was a travesty. And you can still go in areas that have oil that is just a terrible concern right now. We must, as Americans, we must keep our environment clean. That includes our streams, all sorts of things that we have to do to make sure that our kids, my grandkids right there, and some back here, I want an Arkansas for them. They're the ones that this is important about. And we need to be sure that we have a clean environment when they get to age to enjoy it like you and I are at this time. Thank you.
You have 1 minute.
Well said, Gene, and I want to point out something. That's the difference between someone who has kids and grandkids in this state and someone who lives in Washington, D.C. and is paid by the people of Washington, D.C. And you'll hear it if you listen to Mr. Cotton's campaign. He's all about the natural resource state. More mining, more coal mines. You know, we just built a big coal plant in South Arkansas to make power for Texas. We're destroying our environment in order to so that Texas doesn't have to have a coal plant in Texas, and that's just not right. You know, we have to protect. Arkansas has lots of wonderful things. One thing we have lots of is sun. We need to be focusing on solar energy. Carbon-based energy will run out. It's causing climate change. Now, some people will deny that, and some people will completely ignore it. But we have climate change. And the reason we have that is because we are burning every bit of oil we can. We're using all the natural gas we can. We're fracking all over North Arkansas. and all of a sudden we're having earthquakes, but you know, all the paid experts are saying, oh, that's probably not because of that. We need to protect the natural state, not exploit it. Thank you.
Mr. Cotton, you have 1 minute.
We are the natural state, but we are also blessed to be the natural resource state. We do have a lot of oil and gas and coal in its lignite form here in South Arkansas, but we also have it in its traditional form in the River Valley, in Franklin County, and in Logan County. And I view those as assets that we should be proud of, and we should use our ingenuity to take out of the ground to help provide good, high-paying jobs right here in places like Columbia County, or in Franklin County, or in Logan County, to use to power our economy, literally, and also to keep energy prices down. We should also be focused on conservation. And as someone who grew up on a farm, as a hunter, as someone who's been working the land all my life, I know that there's no one in Washington, D.C., or New York, or San Francisco who calls themselves an environmentalist, who cares more about conserving our natural resources for our children and for our grandchildren than the outdoorsmen right here in Arkansas.
No. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Collins, I don't mean to.
It's all right.
Go ahead.
I would like to take this opportunity to talk about my energy policy more specifically and generally. I support a North American energy security zone whereby North America will be secure from outside influence and threat in regard to energy. Never again should an American president bow to a Saudi prince, and never again should American blood be shed in the Middle East for oil.
My name is Shine Meyer. I'm from the Bright Online. That's our student newspaper here at ASAU. And I just wanted to tell you that, well, I think it goes without saying that college is expensive. So I wanted to know in what ways would you gentlemen work to improve the affordability as well as the overall quality of higher education?
Mr. Drake, you have 2 minutes.
We have a messed up tax code. We have a messed up priority in this country. One of the tax deductions we have is candidate Romney's wife competed in the Olympics with a show horse. She deducts those expenses from their taxes, and that's a legitimate expense. That's a messed up system. When you've got multimillionaires who are deducting their show horses, and we need to prioritize student loans. We need to prioritize getting education to our students. Education is our future, and one of the things, a few years ago when all these car plants were moving from the north to the south because we had lower wages, well, Arkansas had as low wages as all the other southern states. They got a lot of these car plants, but what we didn't have is good of education. At the time, it was us in Mississippi who were right at the bottom in education, and that's why we didn't get those car plants. That's why Tennessee and North Carolina and some of those places got those car plants, is that we weren't prioritizing education like we should. And we've gotten better since then, and we've got to make it a priority. We've got to educate our people because that's the strength of the democracy, and we've got to prioritize that. This is the greatest country on earth. We have an economic system that allows anybody to make as much money as they want to. A kid on a farm in Dardanelle can go to Harvard and work for one of the biggest management consulting firms in the world, before they turn to politics. Anybody can do that, and that's what's great about this country. But the people who are doing the best have to be expected to pay their fair share, and that's what's not happening now. The last few years, people have been struggling. Hardworking people working full-time, working in our local Walmarts, they're working their butts off, and they're getting taxed more and more. It's the people that are making all the profits who are complaining, oh, you're overtaxing me, I'm a millionaire, you got to cut my taxes because that'll help those other people that actually work for a living. We've got to reform our tax code where the people that are making the most money in this great system are paying their fair share. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cotton, you have 1 minute.
Higher education is a great investment in your future. That's why so many people take out loans to educate themselves beyond high school. But unfortunately, the cost of higher education now is spiraling out of control, many times greater than the rate of inflation. So much so that people are paying off their student loans until their 30s or even their 40s. And the reason for that is Barack Obama's failed education policies. The president likes to boast that he's keeping your student loan interest rates at 3.4%. But that's still a lot of interest if he's driving up the cost of tuition into the six figures. So what I would do is repeal Obamacare, which nationalized the student loan program, inject competition back into the student loan market. So colleges have to compete in a free market for your tuition dollars, and they can't just continue to raise their tuition rates. I'd also free up colleges from the red tape the Department of Education imposes on them, on the reporting requirements and the data collection requirements, the diversity officers that they have to hire. That just adds to the cost of doing business as a college, which raises tuition rates. Once we can put pressure on tuition prices and eliminate those needless regulations, then we can get the cost of tuition under control.
In addition to the current offerings at every university in the country, I think that a bare bones bachelor degree for $10,000 should be offered. That's my solution.
Thank you. You know, growing up in a family of 7 children, 7 brothers and sisters, most of us graduated from college. I grew up in a log house that was cheap with the Washita River mud. My dad was a piano tuner, but he saw that education was important and that we all had a chance to go to college. I worked through college. I worked at Georgia Pacific Paper Mill at Crossett here in Summers. But you know, that's a far, far piece different than the presidential candidate Romney that says, borrow from your parents.
Okay, the next 5, and well, the last 5 questions were ones written by the students, but I'll be reading them. Again, we're going to keep the same format, and Mr. Cotton will have the first 2-minute shot at this one. The question is this: how does the way that you have managed your campaign reflect the way you will represent the constituency of Arkansas's 4th District?
Thank you, Paul, for that question. I have a few pledges that I can make to the voters of the 4th District tonight. I can promise that you will always know where I stand because I'll always be honest with you. Throughout this campaign, I've always told people where I stand on the issues. I can't always promise that you're going to like where I stand, but I won't dodge your questions, and I won't try to waffle on the issues. I've done that in my campaign. I'll do it as well if you elect me as your congressman. Second, I've been traveling all over this district for a long time. Burned down a set of tires, had to repair the windshield, been hit and run, change my oil about every week. I'll keep doing that once I'm in Congress, because there are 33 counties in this congressional district. It's the size of West Virginia. And every person in this district, whether they vote for me or for one of my opponents, whether they're from South Arkansas or Western Arkansas or Northern Arkansas, deserves the equal representation of their congressman in office. Finally, I've been working very hard to earn your vote. I will keep working very hard to serve you once I'm in Congress, whether it's your views on a piece of legislation, whether it's the help that your grandmother may need for a Social Security check or a Medicare check, or if you're a veteran and you need work with the VA. The hard work that I put in to try to earn your vote will be reflected when I serve you in Congress. Those are just a few of the ways that I think my campaign reflects what you can count on if you elect me as your representative.
Mr. Tullis, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. If you want to vote for a fiscal conservative who is concerned about the role of money in politics, then I'm your guy. I've spent maybe $2,500 so far in this campaign. I am concerned about the role of money in politics, and I think it's corrupting, and I think that it should be on everybody's mind as you go to the voting booth. As a fiscal conservative, I need to be very honest with you and tell you what I will do. I support the elimination of the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Commerce. I am for ending all welfare, corporate and personal. We have got to get the debt and deficit under control, and I'm willing to tell you what I will do. Others may not be so specific, but something has got to be done, and I'm a truth teller, and I'll never lie to you, and some of it's going to be painful, but on the other side of the pain is a strong and vibrant America again.
Mr. Jeffers, 1 minute.
Could we repeat the question once?
Yeah, how does the way that you have managed your campaign reflect the way you will represent the constituency of Arkansas's 4th District?
Man, you wrote that question.
I did
for
not
me.
write that question.
For
That
me.
was, students wrote
Less
that
than
question.
$100,000 spent on the Gene Jeffers campaign. $28,000 during the Democratic primary. You guys that run for one of the other areas here in the state for the same district, y'all spent several $100,000. Gene Jeffers is going to go to Washington. We're going to make Washington real. We're going to make it real. There's no need for campaigns to take $2 or $3 million. Somebody is going to get some votes out of that. And it's not going to be Arkansas.
John,
I've killed 3 deer during that time. That little car out there is better than my shotgun. 2 sets of tires, Tom. Working on a 3rd set. And just general days, that day, like I told you about the day, it was a little more than 738 miles. That's what we're doing. We're visiting people. We're shaking the hands of the people in the 4th District. You're not going to see us on TV because we don't have that campaign dollars. I don't want that campaign dollars because you know what? I'll owe votes to somebody that doesn't live in the 4th District.
okay, Mr. Drake, you have 1 minute.
I hope that if elected, my service is nothing like my campaign, because none of you have ever heard of me before tonight. And so, I promise you that you will hear a lot of me in Congress, because I'll be that stick poking everyone that Mr. Tullis is talking about. But the sad reality is you can't get elected unless you stop unless you're like Mr. Jeffers and you serve this state and you're retired, or you quit your big consulting firm and move back and become a full-time employee. You can't get elected in Arkansas, and you can't get elected anywhere in this country to speak of. It's a difficult situation. Our campaign finance is just out of control. Even in this case, I mean, despite the fact that you've run such an efficient campaign, the campaign that's got all the television ads, is getting all the votes, is the one with all the Washington money. And when you look at the results, I'm afraid the Washington money is going to win too, because there aren't enough forums like this. There aren't enough people coming out who are interested and are listening to the facts and are listening to the people, and that's what we need more of. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, if elected, what are your top priorities on day 1? Mr. Tullis, you have 2 minutes to respond to that question.
Again, I'm more concerned about the debt and the deficit than anything else. I think it's just crippling our future. I think it limits what we can do as a superpower. I mean, how can we preach to the world about what they should be doing if we're doing the exact same thing and crippling our ability that, you know, in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be unsustainable. That will be my priority when I get there, is finding ways to reduce the debt. I've been specific about what I would do. I'm anxious to hear from anybody else that has other ideas. But if you care about your children and your grandchildren, this is what you should be concerned about. Thank you.
Mr. Jeffers, 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. You know, when I first got elected here several years ago to the Arkansas legislature, I represented a good portion of Ouachita County, just a little smidgen of the very northwest corner of Union County, around the Mount Holly area, and then a great deal of the Columbia County, the Magnolia area, and down south, Bridge Road, and Macedonia area as well. When I first got elected and went to Little Rock, the joke was it takes about 3 weeks to find the bathrooms there. What are you going to do the first day? Gene Jeffers is going to work for the 4th District. Whatever it takes. You're my priority, not to pay back all those loans. We're going to be working for the 4th District. Thank you.
Mr. Drake, 1 minute.
One of my top priorities would be to end the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We still have way too many troops in Iraq. Afghanistan, the money we spent on Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 12 years now, I lose track, the years are rolling by. We could have provided health care to every man, woman, and child in America for the same amount of money we spent on these wars. That should be our national priority, is taking care of our people, not blowing up mountains in Afghanistan with multi-million-dollar video enhanced radar-guided bombs to blow up a rock that's been blown up 20 years before by the Soviets. We've got to get our priorities straight. I'd work on health care reform. As a small business owner, I can't afford health care. It's outrageous that what I pay for me and my family just to have health care, and it's not even good health insurance. We've got to take care of our people, and we've got to work toward education. I would expose the people in Washington that are screaming about tax cuts. I would expose them for what they are and expose them for who's supporting them. Thank you.
Mr. Cotton, 1 minute.
First priority of the federal government is always to keep America safe. And you don't keep America safe by ending wars. You keep America safe by winning wars. So from day one, I'll make sure that our troops have what they need in Afghanistan, not to get out of that country the way the president wants, whether we win or lose, but to make sure that we win in Afghanistan. Second, I'll vote to repeal and replace Obamacare. That means I'll vote to restore $700 billion in Medicare cuts. I'll vote to repeal over $500 billion in tax increases. I'll vote to repeal over $1 trillion in new deficit spending. Third, I'll vote to get our budget deficit under control. Bobby is right that it's a threat to all of us, to our children and to our grandchildren. Bobby, you're wrong that I will go along with the House Republican leadership and vote for things like the debt ceiling increase, the spending bills from last January and last December and last month, all of which were promoted by the House Republican leaders, all of which I opposed because they continue years of reckless deficit spending of both parties. Those are my priorities on day one.
Ready for the third question. The third question is this. If elected, how are you going to work with members of the other party to get legislation passed? And Mr. Jeffers, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Probably the most meaningful question that's been asked today. How are you going to work with the other side? Look, the aisle here is on opposite ends. It's not in the middle. There's no aisle here, and we work together. Should Congress not work together? Are you tired of the do-nothing, the bickering, the get nothing done Congress? America, we deserve better. Gene Jeffers has been in the legislature in Arkansas. I know how to work with Democrats. I know how to work with Republicans. I know how to work with both governors. I've done that. It's about talking to the people that are there representing the other areas. We are one country, not two parties.
Mr. Drake, 1 minute.
Thank you. He said or 3 parties, or 4, but I think that's exactly what we need, is we need more parties. Everything in Washington is a zero-sum game. The Republicans see it. If we give in on anything, it helps the Democrats. And we got to get out of that political system. We got to get out of the situation where we just have 2 choices, and sometimes those choices aren't very good. And until we have viable third parties that actually offer a challenge to the establishment, to the people, the corporations that run the Republicans or the corporations that fund a lot of the Democrats, then we're going to be stuck in a situation that we have that's getting worse instead of better, and has been doing that way. I want you to ask Tom Cotton after this is over, is how do we win Afghanistan? We've already won a long time ago. We're never going to be able to kill every person that disagrees with us in this world because
have to kill everyone that disagrees with us. We just have to kill everyone that wants to kill us. I'll work with any person in any party in Congress to help get America working again and to get our budget deficit under control. There's widespread bipartisan agreement on that. For instance, Medicare. It's going to go bankrupt in 8 years. Barack Obama's own actuary says that, unless we make change to it. Paul Ryan's developed a plan to save Medicare for today's seniors, to restore the $700 billion cuts from Obamacare, and also make it viable for tomorrow's seniors as well. Ron Wyden, a very liberal Democratic senator from Oregon, is the co-sponsor of that plan. Alice Rivlin, who was President Clinton's budget director in the late 1990s, was one of the original sponsors of it, as was John Breaux, who was on Bill Clinton's bipartisan Medicare Reform Commission in the late 1990s. The same thing with tax reform. There's widespread agreement in both parties that we need to reform our tax code because there's too many tax shelters and loopholes that benefit the wealthy and the well-connected and the privileged, not Arkansas families and businesses. So I'll work anytime I can with anyone in any party to help Arkansas.
Mr. Tullis, 1 minute.
The American people have rendered their judgment on the current Congress. Only 10% of the American people think that Congress is doing what we send them up there to do. In a phrase, universally, people recognize that Congress sucks. And what is Congress full of? It's full of Republicans and Democrats. I think it's time for an independent voice from South Arkansas to poke them with a stick. And that's what I'll do. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the next question, and this question, Mr. Drake will have 2 minutes to answer this question and 1 minute rebuttals. Question is, what is your advice to a young person that wants to get started in politics? Mr. Drake, you have 2 minutes.
Get involved. You can either get involved by working on a campaign. The big campaigns always have lots for people to do. Find somebody you believe in. I'd encourage everyone to go to this website called I Side With. It's a nonpartisan event, but it lets you put in what you believe, and it tells you which presidential candidate you side with. You might be surprised how your beliefs relate to the candidates, because it's not just the two. It's got all the candidates on there. You might be surprised who you side with. But get involved. If you're willing to work for a third party, if you believe in something like the Green Party or the Libertarian Party, you can run for office. It's pretty easy to do with the smaller parties. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have experience. You just got to be willing to run for office, run for justice of the peace, run for city council. A lot of colleges are very active. The students are very active at running for local city offices. They get involved in their local town, and they run for office. And that's something that I would encourage all students to think about, because there's no better way to learn than get out there and shake the hands and beat the doors. And if you run for a smaller office in a smaller area, you can get to know everybody around you, and that's the best way to learn politics. Of course, I assume you're talking about already have studied a little bit about it. That never hurts either. Is taking your political science classes. I was a political science major in college. It's one of the reasons I'm interested in politics. But just get out there and get involved. There's always something. I see half the room has jean shirts on. Obviously, a lot of people already get involved, and that's a good thing. So just get out there and learn, because there's nothing like experience.
Mr. Cotton, you have 1 minute.
My advice for any young person that wants to get involved in politics is to go to cottonforcongress.com and click on the volunteer button. You can help my campaign. But more generally, as Josh said, just jump right in. I learned in the Army that there's no better way to learn than learning by doing. And there's candidates, I'm sure the other three would testify as well, at every level that need lots of volunteer help. And you should get involved, because if you don't, the joke is going to be on you. Right now, the current Congress is passing on $1 trillion deficits every year that you're going to have to pay when the bill comes due. They're passing on a bill, Obamacare, that's going to interfere with your choices between your doctor and your hospital and your clinic. They have a tax code that's not benefiting you. And that's all because young people aren't involved in politics as much as adults are. So to urge you, like Josh did, to go out, get involved, work in campaigns, and remember to vote.
very honest with you. I was elected constable at 21, city council at 23. By the time I was 27, I was in the State House of Representatives and served for 14 years. Get involved while you're young in campaigns, run for local office if you like. But from the bottom of my heart, if you run for state legislature or anything above that, get your life established first. Get your career on track. I had to learn several lessons. It's tough out there when you don't have a lot of money or anything. You're trying to serve the people. Funds get scarce. So if you want to run for any substantial office, I would beg you to get established first. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Young folks, it is great to see you here. I see some with several different stickers and so forth on it, but it's good to see you energized and here. And I hope it's not just to get an A tonight. I hope it's here so that you'll learn something as well. You know, being a school teacher, retired school teacher, it is good to see our youth here, absolutely. Politics, where the word politician comes from. Poly, many, ticks, blood-sucking parasites. Too many of them actually go by that, don't they? You don't have to, alluded earlier about certain parties and so forth. Hey, even in the Democratic Party, Gene Jeffers not raising hundreds, thousands, or millions. You can get involved and you can see a lot of folks and you can shake a lot of hands and you can make a big difference. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we get to our final question of the evening, and remember, each candidate will get a closing, 1 minute, closing statement. So don't go anywhere. The question is, and Mr. Cotton will have first crack at this one. What is your stance on the proposed ballot measure in Arkansas dealing with medical marijuana?
I'm against it. No, I didn't take it seriously for the longest time because I assumed it wouldn't get on the ballot. My father, who worked the polls all day long on primary day for me in Dardanelle, was standing there as a young lady was setting up a table and unfurling a banner for signatories of that petition. And as I walked up, he had a very concerned look on his face, and he whispered in my ear and he said, "These people are going to think I'm here campaigning for that dope." But it's on the ballot now, and I'm opposed to it. I don't think that we need to legalize marijuana in Arkansas. If you look in places like Colorado or California where it has been legalized, there's a dispensary on every corner of so-called pharmacists for marijuana. Marijuana is often a gateway drug to harder drugs like heroin or cocaine or crack or anything else, and that's not the direction we need to take Arkansas or our children. We need to stand up strong against illegal drugs and continue the policy that Arkansas has always had.
Tell us you have 1 minute.
Well, let me tell you, I'm for it, and I'll tell you why. In 2007, the love of my life developed head and neck cancer. She went through radiation and chemo. She had access to oxycodone, hydrocodone, liquid cocaine, anything that she wanted. But she wanted some marijuana to help with the nausea. But she wouldn't break the law, so she never asked anybody to do it. She died in June of 2009, and this is very personal to me. I don't have any connection with the people that had got it on the ballot or anything, but when I walk in that voting booth, I'm voting for it. Thank you.
Mr. Jeffers, 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. It's last Wednesday when I was on that 738-mile trip. You see a lot of people on a trip like that, you know. I was in Marble, Arkansas on Highway 412, right east of Huntsville. And I went into a service station, had a cafe there. We were eating lunch, my brother and I. And I visited with several folks in the cafe while he went to wash up in the order. And 4 of the gentlemen back in the very back looked like they were ranchers, farmers. They had boots, jeans, and cowboy hat on. Spoke with him, told him what I was doing. Very congenial, very nice to see him, thanked me. As I started to turn around and leave, this gentleman in the booth sitting right beside me said, "Hey, mister, are you not going to speak to me?" Man, don't tell Gene Jeffries that. I sat down with him, and we talked a little bit. I said, and he said, "No, I heard you already." He said, "I got a question." And the question was, "What do you think about medical marijuana?" I said, "Well, I don't know all about it." You know what? He kept on and on and on, and every other word was a cuss word from there on out. Every other word was a cuss word. And I finally said, or he brought up the point that this is the only thing that's ever helped me with a medical condition that I've ever had. And I said, "Have you ever tried Jesus?" You know what he did? He said, "Yes, I have." "Yes, I have." But I said,
Your minute's up.
"This is important." I said, "Yes, I have." "You need to try him again."
Mr. Drake, 1 minute.
One of the common misperceptions of the Green Party is that we're somehow the legalized marijuana party. And if you research the Green Party, we have state and national websites. You'll see we have 10 key values regarding environmentalism and feminism and nonviolence, but legalizing drugs isn't one of them. But as my favorite stoner folk singer, Todd Snyder, says, it's not about what drug you're on, it's whose. We're a nation of drug addicts, whether it's caffeine or nicotine or alcohol. But we have them all compartmentalized. Some of them are legal, some of them are illegal. And so I think we need to recognize that. All of those are gateway drugs. And we all struggle with that issue. I drink too much caffeine. I'll be the first to admit it. Luckily, I've never smoked, and I hope those of you who have stop. And some people can't control their alcohol. Everyone says that there's something to marijuana as far as being a drug to treat certain illnesses. We have all kinds of drugs you can get at the pharmacy, but the pharmaceutical industry are making sure that you don't take something out of their pocket. And so I think we need to look strongly at it, and we need to control it. And it may be that we need to legalize it.
Each candidate will have an opportunity now to make a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll stick with the order that we've been using through the evening. So Mr. Tullis will go first.
Thank you, and thank everyone here. My first involvement in this race was I endorsed Ms. Beth Ann Rankin during the primary because she was interested in doing things for the 4th District and for South Arkansas. But now that I'm the candidate, I support a balanced budget. Afghan insiders are killing our soldiers. It's time to come home. And I support medical marijuana. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jeffers, 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for allowing us to be here. I love Arkansas. I've spent my 63 years in a beautiful state. At this time in my life, I could probably live in most areas of the country, but this is the place that I call home. This is where I've spent my life. This is where I've had my life experiences at. My family's here. It's good to say that I'm an Arkansan. I care about Social Security. I don't want to see it privatized. I don't want to see Medicare changed into a voucher system. I just say common sense, Arkansas values. That's Gene Jeffries. That's what I'm about, and that's what I offer.
Mr. Drake, 1 minute.
Thank you for having me. I want to applaud Tom Cotton for his honesty, but it's a fact that an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. And not only that, it leaves you morally bankrupt. you've heard his priority. His priority is killing everybody who wants to kill us, no matter what it takes, no matter what the cost, no matter what we do to future generations, no matter what expense we spend. He wants to make sure that children don't have health care by repealing Obamacare, and that insurance companies can deny people with pre-existing conditions, but he sure wants to kill everybody he thinks wants to kill us. Well, one of the things we're learning in Afghanistan is we don't even know who wants to kill us over there. That's one of the problems we have. My priority is taking care of the people of Arkansas through health care reform and through education and through protecting the natural state. And I'd appreciate your vote.
Mr. Cotton, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Josh, Gene, Bobby, for a great debate. Thank you for all coming, and thank you for SAU for putting us on. You have a very clear choice in this election. 4 years ago, on the eve of his election, Barack Obama promised that we were just days away from fundamentally transforming America. Unfortunately, that's one promise that he's worked very hard to keep. And if we follow him down the path that he's led us, the only destination we will find is less opportunity, less prosperity, and therefore less freedom. The destination will be what you see in Greece today. But there is a second path, the path that has always made America great, the path of limited constitutional government, of free markets for free people, of individual rights and personal responsibility. That's the path that I choose. I'm asking for your help to lead Arkansas down that path and to help get Arkansas and America working again. My name is Tom Cotton. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our debate tonight. I'd like to extend all my gratitude to the candidates for